Today, we speak to local 7th grade gym teacher Al Golden about his new job. Oh, I've already spilled the secret.
And sad news from Knoxville, Tennessee, where we find out that Butch Jones's coaching career has finally succumbed to lead poisoning.
You mean lead poisoning?
No, I don't, Dan.
It's time to wake up, college football! Welcome to week 5 of Wake Up College Football. Every team is probably bad, except for like 3 of them.
And they'll be bad next week.
They'll be bad next week.
Because it's college football and you're not allowed to be good more than like 2 weeks in a row.
The exact moment where you're positive of something in college football.
That's when it turns on you.
Yep, it implodes into a black hole. And
like that relative you could never trust. Uncle Bernie, that's who college football is.
How dare you. All right, what was your awesome thing of week 5 looking back?
This might not be what most people turn to immediately looking at this week, but
right.
Northwestern's defense was phenomenal, shutting down Minnesota, shutting out Minnesota, and they've been this good all season long. You know, they won that first game against Stanford, and I think we all just said, well, Stanford's not that good this year.
Right.
How Stanford has played since then sort of suggests otherwise, and if you look at the numbers for Northwestern overall, they're really good on third down, they don't give up touchdowns, and they do it in a way that's just very fundamentally sound. It's not a lot of tackles for loss, it's not a lot of sacks or turnovers.
Right.
They just sort of suffocate you and don't let you move the ball, and look at who Northwestern has to play the rest of the season. What offense on their schedule scares you most right now? Is it Michigan? Is it Iowa? I mean,
it might be.
Like these are very one-dimensional offenses that they're facing, and I don't know. It's not crazy to say that Northwestern could be in the playoff picture longer and more seriously than we thought. Now, watch them go out and lose to Michigan next week.
Yeah, and especially within the context of the Big Ten, where you really don't have everybody sort of one-dimensional, perhaps 1.5-dimensional at best at this point. So totally fair. My awesome thing of the week is Oklahoma. And a Big 12 that had TCU slaughtering Texas, Baylor looking great on offense, but struggling at times against a good Texas Tech defense. Oklahoma turned in the most complete performance against a West Virginia team we're pretty sure and still is good, not great, goes 7-6 last year, doesn't really play anybody early on, but against a real opponent, Oklahoma's defense does really well, forcing turnovers, swarming Skylar Howard constantly. Offensively, get going on the ground a little bit with Samaje Perine. Baker Mayfield looks good. Dede Westbrook very good. The transfer coming in at receiver. And they're looking like the most complete team ahead of next week's Texas game. And somebody that we were unsure about because of the new offensive coordinator in Lincoln Riley, what they look like on offense.
Right.
But so far, they've been a little bit questionable on defense, but against West Virginia, they were terrific.
It's weird to say that Oklahoma is an underreported entity.
It is.
Like, we never say that, but it's kind of true right now.
They just keep on winning. What to you were you not expecting from week 5?
I will go ahead and go with my Florida Gators. Just crushing Ole Miss. And, you know, a lot of it was on the defense. Shut out Ole Miss in the first half and didn't allow a touchdown until the game was well in hand.
Right.
But Will Grier, a guy who looked, beat Tennessee last week, but looked very uncomfortable a lot of that game, was just so confident in the pocket. I think only had 5 incompletions through 4 touchdowns, was just making the right reads, finding who to get the ball to, moving around when he needed to. It's one of the best games I've seen Florida play in a long, long time. And I don't know where the Ole Miss team that beat Alabama was, because that's not who we saw in the swamp on Saturday.
Yeah, we saw Ole Miss from last week against Vanderbilt continue how they looked, and totally true. And the SEC hierarchy, we know Bama's great. We're going to get to them in a minute. But they lose to a weird Ole Miss team. Tennessee's a disaster.
Who's still probably a good team.
Right, absolutely. But we're not, after Georgia's loss, we have no idea who's actually week in and week out good, perhaps outside of Alabama. To me, what I was not expecting, UCLA. Even though they had struggled at times last season coming off of big wins, at home in the Rose Bowl against an ASU team that has pretty much underwhelmed. Defensively, they've looked pretty good at times. They sold out against the run against USC and suffered for it last week. But for ASU to come to Pasadena, and really dominate the line of scrimmage against a UCLA team that's experienced on both lines. Josh Rosen has looked sharp more often than not. He struggles a little bit with the pressure. Obviously, they can't get anything going on the ground. ASU, quite impressive. That run at the end where the offensive line just barreled with the running back into the end zone was great, but was not expecting UCLA to struggle like this after entering into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA had some close calls earlier in the season. That BYU game comes to mind, but maybe, I don't know, I just hope that they were...
Everybody's bad.
Yeah, everybody is bad. That's the lesson.
All right, so what to you means the most looking forward with the week of college football?
It was easy to say that it was Clemson after 3 quarters of them dominating Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It feels less so after that 4th quarter, but in the end, they still got the win. They're getting very good production from their running game. Deshaun Watson has not totally shown up as a passer as they might have hoped at this point, but the defense forced a lot of turnovers, got sacks, got pressure against a very good Notre Dame offensive line. And their schedule is one that you look at it the rest of the year and it's sort of like, okay, there are some teams on here that could beat them, but there's no team on here that looks super complete. Boston College has a great defense and no offense. Florida State is, still barely beating teams like Wake Forest. South Carolina's a complete disaster. So I don't know. It's sort of, not to belabor the Clemson thing, but there is an element of if Clemson can stay out of its own way.
Stay focused.
Yeah, this could be a very good year for them. But that said, Clemson has to prove that they can do that.
All right. My sort of most meaningful thing, Roll Tide. This is for you, Porter, camera guy behind the camera. Big Tide fan. They looked great against Georgia. They dominate wire to wire. Derrick Henry looks very good in a difficult circumstance on the road in a wet, muddy place against a Georgia team who looked to be perhaps the most complete team, even with Grayson Lambert being a new quarterback. They confuse him. They stop Nick Chubb for a majority of the game. The defense looked great. Jake Coker looked good when he needed to, turning turnovers into big plays. Alabama now looks to be the class of the SEC, and that's 2 weeks after losing at home to a team we now consider deeply flawed.
Yeah, it's funny how you just need a monumental rainstorm to get the offensive balance that most Alabama fans want to see, which is run the ball a lot and only throw it when you really have to.
15 or 16 times.
Exactly. So just root for that every week, Alabama fans.
The Alabama dynasty is over, and now it is not over, because that's how college football works.
Because we're very smart.
Thank you very much to Ryan. My name is Dan. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.